So, I know I am doing this review a little bit later than I anticipated. I was actually going out with my friends today to go eat this evening, and I just got back home a couple of minutes ago and also wrote the board in terms of the things that I'm going to be talking about in terms of the review for the MLS All Star Game that happened today. And yeah, that is the reason why I'm uploading this a little bit later. So, in the end, in this MLS All Star Game, it was the MLS All Star, I believe, suffered their worst loss in their time when they play against a European opponent, as they lost 3-0 to Atletico Madrid. And before I actually get into the match, I'm going to just talk about the starting 11 in this game. So the starter in this game was Zlatan up front, Nani, Pozuelo, Rooney, Vela, Chara, Lawrence, Hedges, Zimmerman, and Zusi as the starting 11. So it looked like James O'Connor decided to go with a 4-1-4-1 formation in this. By the way, I also should put Vela right here with a C because he was the captain of the team. He was voted the captain for the All-Star team. And, you know, it's definitely a decent squad, although the formation-wise, you know, it's not really kind of like an attacking kind of formation. And I feel like doing this game, Zlatan basically were offering no service whatsoever, in that he was kind of isolated throughout this game, and Rooney just dropped so deep in this game. Like, he was almost like playing as a number 6 in this game, even though that's what the position that Diego Chara was in this. And Vela definitely did not had a big factor to, and you know, he definitely didn't look like himself and didn't look like the guy that scored 21 goals this season. But you know, tonight in the All-Star Game, most of these players didn't really had a good night, and I'm guessing the reason why that is the case is because, you know, it's a meaningless game and that the intensity is not going to be there, and that these players are just going to try to have some fun before they have to go back to their team and play a weekend game, which is why this is also one of the biggest problem of this All-Star Game, where, you know, I remember the All-Star Game usually takes place on the weekend, but ever since the fact that the schedule kind of got a little bit congested, it kind of got flexed out into the middle of the week. And when you decided to put an All-Star Game literally sandwiched between 2 match week, obviously players are not going to be playing to full intensity, and that they're not going to really put 100% in this game when they got a midweek game or they got a weekend game literally just 3 days from now. And that this is one of the big flaw, and that I'm also going to talk a little bit later on some of the big flaw that this All-Star Game does have. But yeah, that is the starting 11 for this MLS All-Star Game, and don't worry, the rest of the player that was on the bench and were voted in the start, or voted in this All-Star Game, did get a chance to play in this game, and that in fact everyone that was on the bench and everyone that got voted into the All-Star Game get a chance to at least play in this game. But first of all, there was actually a 30-minute weather delay in this game. The game actually kicked off at 8:41 p.m. Eastern time. Originally, it was supposed to kick off at around 8:11, and yeah, I mean, you knew that this game there was going to be a big chance that this game would be delayed because, you know, it's Florida and it's summer, and you know, if you ever live in Florida, you know that it's not only hot there in the summer and also very humid, but there are big chances of lightning storm, which we had during this game. But fortunately, there was only a 30-minute weather delay, and that at least this is not like what we've seen this season, where there are some games that kick off at 10 o'clock in the evening. So at least that was good, the fact that it was only 30 minutes and the game started at 8:41 p.m. Eastern time, which is usually the start time for a lot of these big kind of European kind of encounters. And the other thing that I want to note before I talk about this game is that there are some players that actually were mic'd up during this game and being interviewed by John Strong and Stu Holden, who are the commentator for this game before and during the game. And, you know, I know that this is probably an idea that MLS took from MLB, where, you know, if you saw the MLB All-Star Game, there were a couple of players that was also got mic'd up, and they were also being interviewed by the commentator during the game or before the game. But I really do not like the fact that MLS players are being mic'd up like during the game. Like, I understand that they want to kind of hear what are they thinking when the game is doing, but the thing is, the reason why it works in the MLB All Star Game is that, in baseball there's usually not a lot of action. So obviously the commentator can of course chat with the players, no problem, because most of the time the ball is really not in play. But as in soccer, the ball is always in play, and that players have to like run around, and players got to like of course know what they of course are doing, what are the players that they're going to be marking, and what are they going to do when they get the ball and pass the ball. And it's just, there was just non-stop action, and I feel like with them kind of interviewing players during the game, it really kind of throws off some of the players in terms of their rhythm, because one, they're concentrating the game, and now they have to also listen to the question that the commentator asked them and just kind of respond them while you're of course playing the game, and you're basically just multitasking on the field. So yeah, I really did not like that, and that it really kind of killed some of the rhythm of some of the players that is playing there. And that I hope this will not be the case for, like, if this is going to be the case, it will only be the case in the All-Star Game. I really do not want to see this in an actual game, because players in an actual game are so focused in the game that if you're just going to ask them questions and ask them random questions during the game, they're going to be switched off, and then next thing you know, that could be a big problem for your team. So hopefully, if they're going to keep this mic up thing, which I'm not a big fan of, just keep it during the All-Star Game. Don't actually do it in an actual game, or even doing MLS Cup. Like, can you imagine doing MLS Cup final and then they have some player, of course, mic'd up, and you get to interview them doing a big final? Like, that would just be one of the dumbest and one of the most stupid thing that you will see. So, yeah, hopefully they only do it in the All-Star Game and they just don't do it in any other game. Now, in the first half, there was really, like, for the first 20 minutes, it was relatively boring, and that there wasn't really much that was going on. In the first half, it seemed like the MLS decided to put their strongest starting 11 in the first half, and that Atletico Madrid really decided to just put their reserve player in this game. So I thought maybe the MLS player can get maybe a couple of goals on Atletico Madrid, the reserve side, but it turns out that was not the case, and that there was just no fluidity whatsoever in this team. And obviously this happens when you decided to put bunch of stars that never ever play with each other on a team. And I've been saying so many times how it doesn't matter if you have like 10 or 11 superstar on a team. If they never play with each other and that they have no chemistry to each other, it's not going to work out very well. And in this game, it proved to my point exactly, and how you just seen players just either underhit the pass, and you even see some star player that just doesn't feel comfortable whatsoever. I mean, I think, doing this week, they were talking about how it was good, the fact that they were able to, of course, chat with some of the players that they usually play against, which, that's fine. But during the game, when you are, of course, have to, like, rely on your teammate to pass you the ball, and usually you have no chemistry with them, and you don't know what their movement and how they exactly play, then that, of course, is what happened with the MLS All-Star in this game, where there was just no fluidity on the attack. The midfield was just as bad as it gets, and it just felt like I was watching not really an All-Star team, but looked like I was watching the worst team in MLS right now playing against Atletico Madrid. So yeah, for the first 20 minutes there wasn't really much that was happening. I think the only thing that I noticed for the first 20 minutes that was kind of interesting was that there was definitely a lot of profanity that was picked up by the FS1 mic, and those profanity, of course, was toward Brad Guzan, and obviously it makes sense why a lot of profanity is going toward Brad Guzan, because he's an Atlanta United player, and I know a lot of Orlando City fans, and especially I know that when Brad Guzan was stood right behind the wall and right behind where usually the Orlando City supporter group are usually standing, yeah, obviously you're going to get that profanity. And I know I know it definitely is not good, and that I'm pretty sure if you are a kid watching that, that is probably not something that you want to hear, and that, you know, I guess maybe next time FS1 might not be thinking about putting their mic right near the supporter and right near those hardcore Orlando City fans that, you know, they're gonna shout some profanity toward the rival goalkeeper. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's unfortunate, and I was kind of interesting to see whether or not if the commentator John Strong or Stu Holden was actually going to like apologizing to the audience, because sometimes during some of the games you see some of the commentator when they hear like a bad word picked up on the mic, and of course some of the audience heard those kind of profanity, then of course they apologize to the audience for that. But it was interesting the fact that they did not apologize to the audience, and that you know they let that profanity go, which was kind of interesting. And there was some profanity that was just very kind of interesting. I mean, there was a lot of F-bomb that was dropped off of Brad Guzan, and there was even one guy that decided say, "I hope you can hear this, Brad, but you suck ass." And speaking of "you suck ass," that was literally the goalkeeping chant that a lot of those Orlando City supporters was behind the goal. Like every time when they kicked the ball, and you know how a lot of Mexican fans use that P kind of chant when the goalkeeper kicked the ball upfield. Well, in this case, it was Orlando City fans doing the "you suck ass" kind of chant, which is just as explicit as the P chant that Mexican fans does. Now, the only real chance that the MLS All-Star, I think, had in the first half was Rooney actually took a shot from about 35 yards out, and he absolutely rocketed that shot that just went a little bit high. And if that one actually went in, that might be the best goal we have ever seen in the MLS All-Star game. Like, you know, that was just so sweetly hit by Wayne Rooney, but it's unfortunate that it went just a little bit high in that instant. And then 5 minutes later, we had our first substitution of the night, and it was Zlatan and Guzan that actually got subbed off in this game, and Andre Blake and Joseph Martinez, of course, come into the game. And I was also going to be interested to see what happened if Joseph Martinez actually score a goal in this game. What will the Orlando City fans actually react? Because, you know, he likes to score against Orlando City, and after all, he did broke the scoring record last year at the same stadium that the MLS All-Star Game took place. So that was going to be interesting to see if that, of course, happened, which unfortunately it didn't. And then eventually in the 43rd minute, we did get our first goal, and Atletico Madrid took the lead. And by the way, I know Orlando City fans are going to be triggered when they watch this video, but when I put the acronym for Atletico Madrid, I just decided to go with the same acronym as I would put for Atlanta United with ATL. And you know what? Just for Orlando City fan to not just get mad and start disliking, I'm just going to put an M here just to show you guys that, yeah, you did not get scored by Atlanta United this time. But you did get scored on Atletico Madrid, or at least the MLS All-Star team did. And it was Llorente's score from Rekami and Herrera. If I pronounce Rekami's name wrong, I do apologize that. I'm not the best with pronunciation. And by the way, that was a lovely back heel from him to give it to Llorente that went through on goal and able to put the ball into the back of the net. You know, Andre Blake kind of did get a little bit touch of that, but, you know, I can't really blame him too much for that. I mean, if he would have saved that, it would have been an incredible one-on-one save, but when Llorente is that close to our goal, yeah, sometimes it's really hard for a goalkeeper to save that, and I won't really totally blame Andre Blake for not saving that. So, yeah, at that point, Atletico Madrid head to halftime with a 1-0 lead. And then, as we head into the second half, this is when we had the halftime substitution. And basically, the entire team that play in the first half, besides the 2 players that actually got subbed off right about the half-hour mark, everybody basically came off, and there was basically a new fresh kind of starting 11 in the second half. So, guys that came out, in the halftime substitution were Nani, Matt Hedges, Diego Chara, Kamar Lawrence, Graham Suzy, Carlos Vela, Alejandro Pozuelo, Walker Zimmerman, and Wayne Rooney. Coming in are Diego Rossi, Gonzalo Perez, Maxi Morales, Marc-Anthony Kaye, Romeo Martinier, Nicolas Odero, Jonathan Dos Santos, Bastian Schweinsteiger, and Pity Martinez. Now, just as the MLS All Star were basically shuffling their starting 11, so did Atletico Madrid. Although, unlike how the MLS All Star decided to start their strongest starting 11 against a relatively weak and kind of a reserve kind of team, in the second half, it was basically vice versa, and that we basically just flipped the script where it was Atletico Madrid, the team, now putting their big guns in, and guys like Jan Oblak, Diego Costa, João Felix, Koke, and Salvo, and all these guys that usually are regular starter for Atletico Madrid was in the starting 11, whereas the MLS All-Star were trying to put a couple of the reserve player into this game. And I knew that when that happened, yeah, I know this is not going to be very pretty. Which, to be fair, I will say this, the MLS All-Star actually had more threatened chance in the second half than they did in the first half, and they actually had a couple of chances from the free kick late in the game to equalize. And that, I think, the biggest chance for the MLS All-Star besides the Rooney shot in the 25th minute was right about 81 minutes into the game. There was a ball that was just literally put on a plate for Pity Martinez, and all he needs to do is put the ball into the back line and hit that one on target. But instead, he basically blasted over, and pretty much that shot is the story of Pity Martinez this season in MLS, where he's supposed to be the guy that is kind of like the João Felix of MLS, and that he's supposed to be a very promising and kind of like the next Miguel Almiron for Atlanta, but it turns out he seems more like Ezequiel Barco from last season, where, you know, he had a record amount of fee when he come to Atlanta, and that hype definitely did not live up to the charts. So, yeah, that, of course, I think was really the best chance for MLS All-Star team to get back into the game. But before that, in the 59th minute, Joseph Martinez and Andre Blake decided to come off the game, and then it was Rimaldo and Wando that is coming into the game. And when Rimaldo and Wando comes into the game, I knew this game was over, and that I knew Atletico is going to score a couple more, because, you know, no offense to Rimaldo and Wando, and especially Nick Rimaldo, who, you know, he is such a legend in MLS, and he's going to go down as one of, if not the greatest goalkeeper to ever play in MLS. But when you saw how he performed in this MLS All-Star Game, and really throughout this season for RSL, yeah, it is clear that it is really time for him to hang up his boots, and that he is just as washed up as Tim Howard right now in terms of that goalkeeping role. And in the 73rd minute, there were the last two substitutions that came in. Diego Rossi and Maxi Morales comes out, and then there was Paxton Pomako and Ezequiel Barco come into this game. I was really surprised at the fact that Barco did not get a lot of playing time, and he was the last one to be sub in, because I thought he would be one of the substitution that would come in and make a big impact to this MLS All-Star team. But he came in late, and, you know, he did okay. I wouldn't say he completely light up the game and had a decent kind of game, but he did all right when he came into the game, and the same can say about Paxton Pomako when he came into this one. But in the latter part of the game, that's when Atletico Madrid really kind of put this game away. João Felix scores from Salvo, and I wrote Rimaldo probably should have saved that one. And remember, I said that when Rimaldo come in, I knew this game was over, and that I said that he just seems like very washed up in this game. There is an example of that, because, you know, as much as I know a lot of people are going to say that was an incredible goal by João Felix, and that, you know, this 17-year-old, and that this what could be the next Ronaldo that we're witnessing right now score an incredible goal from outside the box. But, you know, when you look at that shot, it looked like it just went, it basically shot right to Rimaldo. And the fact that, you know, I know the ball was kind of knuckling a little bit and it didn't really had a lot of spin, but you would think that Rimaldo, with how good he's been in MLS, and that I think a prime Rimaldo, and a couple of years ago, Ronaldo would have probably saved that, and that would have not been into the back of the net. But to be fair, credit to João Felix. That was an incredible shot. But I would also give even more credit of the next goal that Atletico Madrid scores. So Diego Costa, of course, scores this goal from João Felix. But the thing that I have to focus here is João Felix making a world-class assist in this game. Like, he basically just heaved one almost from the middle of the park and just put an absolute dime to Diego Costa to basically give him a chance to slot that one into the back of the net. And if this is the João Felix that we are seeing against an MLS All Star team, boy, I am definitely very interested to see what he can do. I mean, I know, like I said, a lot of people said that he could be the next Ronaldo and that he is pretty much the successor of Cristiano Ronaldo once Ronaldo, of course, retired. But what we have already seen from him, and that he has already kind of like looked like a player that has already played in La Liga or play in this game for a couple of years. And if this is what we're going to see for the rest of the season from what he did with Atletico Madrid in La Liga, then yeah, this could definitely be a player that you are going to really have to pay attention, and that he could really be right near where Ronaldo, and right kind of, maybe we're seeing a little bit of a we might be seeing a little bit of a kind of a little bit of a glimpse of what would be kind of João Felix versus Mbappe in terms of the Ballon d'Or kind of race. I mean, I know that seems like crazy kind of talk, and that's so far from the future, but hey, you never know. If João Felix can develop, and we know that certainly Kylian Mbappe has already developed too, you know, if both of those guys are going to continue to play like the way that they have, then we might have another kind of like Messi versus Ronaldo kind of Ballon d'Or kind of race. Like, that would just be quite amazing to see. But going back to MLS, as I kind of gone a little bit talking about a little bit of a European kind of soccer, and that if you want to hear me talk more about European soccer, then watch my second channel when I usually talk about that. But overall, you know, the MLS All-Star obviously did not have a very good game, and in terms of shots in this game, Atletico Madrid had 19 shots compared to 10 that MLS All-Star had, 8 shots on goal compared to 2 that MLS All-Star had. Both teams had 8 shots off target, 3 shots that was blocked compared to none that the All-Star team had, and the All-Star did have more possession than Atletico Madrid, 59% possession compared to 41% possession. But when you face against Atletico Madrid and you have more possession, then you know that you are probably going to be on the losing end, because this is basically classic Diego Simeone kind of football. And that, you know, if this game actually ended 1-0, then this is a classic Atletico Madrid and a classic Diego Simeone special, because that's what this team does, where, you know, this team will defend with just superior organization, and that they're not going to let you get through on goal, and that they will somehow find a way to hit you on the counter attack and have a lot of lethal kind of winger that can outpace you on the wing and just go on the counter attack like that to just nick a goal. And that's how Atletico Madrid is worked out. And unfortunately, the MLS All-Star Game kind of fell into that, and that they just really cannot break down this sturdy defense that this Atletico Madrid team really put in this MLS All-Star kind of game. And I also know that there's going to be a lot of people, when they look at this result, I know there's going to be a lot of people say that, oh, MLS is definitely not there, and that it's going to continue to be a joke of a league because it can't even compete against a super European team, which, you know, first of all, this is Atletico Madrid. This could be potentially one of the best team, and a team that could be challenging for La Liga or even in the Champions League this season. So losing to them, you know, with the squad that we have, and the All-Star squad isn't, I wouldn't say it's a bad kind of squad, but it's not like a Barcelona kind of squad that if you lose to like Atletico Madrid like that, then that's a kind of embarrassing effort. And see, the other issue that I also have with the MLS All-Star Game, besides the fact that I talked about earlier, that it should not be taking place in the middle of the week and it should be a weekend kind of game, is the fact that when you have guys that don't play with each other for even a game, and that they just put into a team like that, there's gonna be no chemistry on this team, and that, you know, just because you have so much talent on your team doesn't mean it's gonna gel if none of them know what exactly each of his teammates is going to do, as I mentioned earlier. And the third thing that I also want to say is that for people that say that they want to bring back the format of East versus West, or maybe Liga MX versus MLS kind of All-Star Game, then the East of versus West thing, I completely disagree the fact that we should bring that back, because it just doesn't draw any interest if it's an East versus West kind of matchup. And that I think the only reason why a lot of people are paying their hard-earned money to go to the All-Star Game is they want to see one of the best team in Europe to come to MLS, and that they want to see those players to play. And, you know, I think an MLS versus Liga MX All-Star Game might make sense, and at least that would make a little bit more sense than what you have with the Companies Cup and also the League Cup that is going on right now. But overall, I don't think this is a bad format, and I think this is just going to continue to draw in the crowds that want to see an MLS All-Star team that play against Atletico Madrid. And I can guarantee you that a lot of people in that crowd tonight at Orlando City, a lot of them probably have never watched an Orlando City game, and that a lot of them are just there to watch Atletico Madrid play, and that maybe some of them are just general MLS fan and want to see the best team play. So until then, I think I like the format of the fact that they, of course, stick with MLS team versus a European team, and if they get absolutely destroyed, then I mean, I'm not going to say that this is the worst league in the world, and that it's just unfortunate that the opponent, you know, we're much stronger, and that in this situation, that's what Atletico Madrid is in this situation. So, yeah, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this? And honestly, if you don't like this idea, and if this is the case where if the idea of MLS versus a European team, or MLS versus Liga MX, or an MLS West versus MLS East kind of thing would work out, then why not just scrap the All-Star Game? Like, the All-Star Game, I feel like MLS, they are trying to be following the same kind of format, and kind of want to try to do the same thing like other American professional sports, where we got to have an All-Star Game and we got to have a playoff kind of format. And the playoff format I actually like, but, you know, I feel like sometimes MLS just needs to be different from another league, and that if they, of course, are just something different from the other professional league here in the States, then I think it might even draw more interest in that it's just something different. And instead of this MLS All-Star Game, they could just have like just a regular kind of game. And that, you know, I just feel like the All-Star Game, especially with now the schedule being so congested right now, I don't see any kind of value anymore in this All-Star Game. And that, you know, we know all these guys are going to be back with their league team in 3 days, and going to be back playing in league format, and have to once again play the full 90 minutes to, of course, fight for position in the playoffs, or depending on where their team is right now. So I just feel like, with that being said, and with this game now just kind of sandwiched between 2 match week, and that there's really not as much meaning anymore than what we've seen in previous MLS All-Star Game, or just when they create the MLS All-Star Game in general. I think it's just maybe we might think about time to scrap it and just go on without an All-Star Game. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below if you think that's a good idea, that MLS just scrap the All-Star Game and just do it without it, so that it doesn't create these kind of congested schedule, and that it just create like a meaningless game that the players obviously are not going to take it very seriously. But let me know in the comments below, and yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.